Why I love this podcast is because it's one thing to experience culture, but it's another thing to archive it. We need the stories to be told.
Our priorities say a lot about where our headspace is at.
I really think it's about relationships.
The only thing stopping anybody from getting what they want is themselves. You just don't want it bad enough.
Hey guys, this is Paulina Lopez, and you're listening to Creative Ambiance.
What's good, creatives? Welcome back to Creative Ambiance. Today, I'm joined by Paulina Lopez, who is the marketing director for Foot Locker, amongst a lot of other things. How are you feeling today, Paulina?
Good. It's Friday, done with work. For the most part, we'll see. I'm feeling really good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good too. I'm really happy that you came down here, and also good to hear that you weren't too far away. So you wouldn't have to deal with that huge LA traffic commute, which is awesome.
For one. So I really appreciate that. I would have gone to LA anyway, but to see that 10-minute drive was perfect.
I love to hear it. You are somebody who exudes ambition, confidence, also leadership principles. And I was just curious, like for my first question, have you always carried these qualities with you, or is this something that you had to develop over time?
No, not at all. My first jobs, I was very shy and timid, and it just makes you tough once you hear from people like, hey, speak a little bit louder, stand a little bit taller.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're wrong, you have to be able to accept, the criticism and the backlash. And it's taken a ton of like, oh man, what did I just say? Or, maybe I should have explained that a little bit better, to just really help me build my confidence. And I feel like something that I learned is that people will be just captivated by how you carry yourself.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes, even if you're wrong, you might have to obviously acknowledge, right, where the mistake was or how you should approach something better. But the confidence comes from like, hey, I was trying to come from the right place, and this is why I suggested X, Y, and Z. So it takes a lot of, rejection, criticism. And I think now that I'm like a little bit older, that is where the confidence comes in from.
Interesting.
So now, even if, things don't go my way or somebody disagrees with something that I'm proposing, being older, that is where I come in and say, you know what, it's okay. But I'm confident in who I am and, why I positioned what I positioned. And even if people disagree, I can still feel like, hey, I had, enough courage to speak up and bring what I was, thinking about at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's really great to hear, because I think a lot of people think that some people are kind of quote unquote born with it, but it sounds like from what you're saying, you have to go through it and kind of fail, pick yourself back up, and that kind of builds the repetition, maybe builds the person who you are today, it sounds like.
Exactly, right? Repetition. And sometimes, there's a ton of people out there who's just demeanor I admire, right? And how confident they are. And sometimes even talking to those people, how do you get in your bag? How do you stand there so confidently and get in like a huge crowd of people, or even doing this, right? This can be really intimidating.
Yeah.
And, sometimes even just asking for a little bit of advice, some people might say, hey, make sure that you actually, read in advance. Some people do the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. They like to go into situations and just kind of like, YOLO and go in the moment. And like, for example, me. Growing up, I was not necessarily smart, but I was very hardworking.
Okay.
So I would be the one up all night, literally all night, studying with my flashcards. And so that is what would bring me confidence the next morning. So I think preparation too is a big part of why I sometimes feel like, okay, I spent hours doing the research, the work, so I'm going to go into this confidently. That's still not to say that it's going to be a hit, right?
Yeah.
So I think preparation and just failure sometimes is what really helps.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes nervousness or anxiousness can come from a place of being unprepared.
Oh, yeah.
And if you know yourself and you know that if I prepare the right way, I'm going to be more confident going into whatever I need to accomplish. Mm-hmm. So that's a great point to start off with, just like knowing yourself, what you're good at, what you're not good at, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know tons of speakers, some of my gals that are like on TV, and they just go with it. They don't need a lot of preparation. It's natural to them. I think that's something really important to recognize. Does it come natural to you, or do you need to actually take the steps in order to get to a level of like confidence or preparedness, or, you just have to be really self-aware. I think that's really key too.
For sure, because what you're maybe naturally good at, somebody else may not. They have to work harder at that. And it's okay to not be great at everything. And if you recognize it and be self-aware, like you said, that allows you to work on it and become better at it. But if you're not aware of it, some people just go through life and they're not really aware of, some of their weaknesses. And how could you get better at something if you don't know it's bad, or you don't know you need to work on it?
And that's kind of, any work setting, not just corporate America, any work setting. I acknowledge what I'm not good at, but at the same time, that's also not an excuse, right? If there's something that I want to learn or be better at, you got to put in the work. However, sometimes there's just things that no matter how hard you work at them, it's just not your thing.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That's part of being in a team, right? Like, hey guys, this is what I really enjoy. This is what I'm really good at. But I know that you really are just exceptional at this side of the house, so I'm going to lean on you to take on that project or like move it forward. And then I'm really good at XYZ, lean on me to do such. So I think that's just like the beauty too of working in a team, that you recognize each other's strengths, and you're able to kind of go back and forth.
I love that. Let the greats be great at what they do. It lets you focus on what you need to do. Awesome. I want to start off by covering a little bit more about your personal background. So I know that you grew up in Mexico City. You have Italian and Lebanese roots. So what was it like growing up in Mexico City? And then secondly, how does your culture play a role in today for you as a marketer, or just through storytelling? Curious of your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I am so grateful for, have been born in Mexico City and being raised there. I had a phenomenal childhood. I was, lucky enough to go to private schools, and, till this day, there's certain projects or classes or lessons that I still remember, from back then, and very, very family oriented.
Okay.
Very, we're a very together like family. We talk on WhatsApp till this day, all day, every day. We don't miss an opportunity to acknowledge each other and, hope you have a good day, and,
That's awesome.
etc. And to be honest with you, I never really put a ton of emphasis on being, Lebanese and Italian and like all these things, because in Mexico, that's just not how people look at each other. I knew that I looked different just based on, all of my friends. So I knew that there was something different about me, right? Because believe it or not, there's a lot of like, colorism in Mexico as well.
Really? Okay.
So, oh yeah. A lot of my friends were blonde, blue-eyed. Clearly I'm the opposite of that. So I had experienced a lot of, again, just discrimination, just, at school, and I wouldn't get picked for like the school plays and things of that nature because I didn't look a certain way. So I knew again that I looked different, but never in the spectrum of how aware I am now once I moved to the States.
Really?
So once I moved to the States, I was, 12, 13. That is when I really knew how difficult it was going to be, because, when you're filling out your paperwork just to get into high school, right away, one of the first questions is to check off your race, right?
Always, even with the jobs now. Yeah.
With everything. I never experienced that in Mexico. So, me being so young and, really my mom relying on me to kind of do all the paperwork, right? Like, it's a very typical immigrant story where and I'm the eldest of a ton, like 6.
Oh, really?
So I think with that, it came a lot of responsibility. But anyway, so got to, the school district, whatever the case was, and, pick your race. And, I'm like, well, I'm kind of pale, like I'm white.
Yeah.
So the counselor looks at me and goes, you are not white, pick another box. So imagine just like at a young age, the culture shock, trying to figure out, what are you really asking me? I don't know how to fill this out.
Nobody tells you how to fill that out.
Nobody tells you how to fill that out. And like, why do you need to know what color I am?
Yeah.
Right.
What is that going to inform?
Where's that going to put me?
Yeah.
And in that moment, once I checked off that I was of a Latin background, that my first language was Spanish, that immediately put me into an ESL class.
Wow.
Right?
Without any type of testing or, acknowledgement of anything.
No.
Wow.
I grew up learning English, right? Like I don't recall learning it. I just grew up kind of like knowing it. So I think it was maybe not even 2 weeks. And my mom said, absolutely not. You're not going to be in that class. You need to go pick something else, right? Well, they put me in Spanish class. My mom said, absolutely not. Like, go pick something else. So I ended up taking, French classes. But yeah, that's when I was really aware that something was going to be shifting in the way that people looked at me and how they interacted with me, just based on the way that I looked.
Okay. And then with that information, what did you do with it at that age? And how did it affect you as you continued to grow?
Thank God for my mom, because even though we had just moved here, we didn't really have a place to live. Even though I knew the language, it's not the same learning in a school setting and then going out into the real world. So, struggling with English, struggling with like even the way that I was dressing at the moment, very different from how kids were dressing, at the time here in the States. So my mom basically just, it's going to sound terrible, but she didn't care about anything that we were going through. Her expectations of me were still to be an A+ student and to continue to be as great as I had always been. So there really was no excuse for me to say, hey, I don't understand what's being said in school. Well, go get a tutor. Well, go on the internet, go figure it out, go ask a friend. Also because she was so busy with my siblings that were twins and, a year and a half old. So
I could imagine, yeah.
Yeah, her standards never left the building, no matter how things were at the time. And I think that's what helped me just really button up, make sure that I got good grades. I got some different types of like, scholarships and things of that nature that also kind of helped me accountable to making sure that I was still really good at school. And I mean, really, and even now, right? Like for me, education was the only plan. There was no backup. I had no idea what my life was going to look like once I had left my hometown, at such a young age, and in those years where it's pivotal to have consistency, right? And like the household and things of that nature. So I had no idea what my life was going to be like. So really the only plan was to be the best at what was right in front of me, which was school. And even going to college, I didn't think that I would ever be able to go, because in the moment I didn't have my paperwork established, and there was just so many unknowns. How could you know?
Yeah. And then when you get to college, did you figure out what you wanted to do after college, or did that take some time too, like as you went through college?
It took some time, right? So like I graduated high school and automatically into college, right? But I was just kind of going through the motions. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And and even now, I don't know how people expect these 20-year-olds to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Even at my big age and where I'm at, I'm still thinking sometimes, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this what I want to do? Like, what's next?
Yeah.
So of course not. I had no idea. Again, I just knew that I had to do it, and I had to do it well, and I had to get good grades. And, I had already started working, like almost like a month after I moved here from Mexico, because there was just no choice. It was just me and my mom. So I think too, working full time while going to school full time, but then also having side jobs, I've never had time to not do the work and to slack off and to take a break or to like leave it for the next day. I've always been go, 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 go. And I think that's why I just got through college, quote unquote, so seamlessly, because I just really had no option but to be on it at all times.
That's that ambition. You've always had, it seems like you've had it for a long time.
I think there was like, I know that it's in me, right? Like, because that's just how my parents are and that's how I grew up. But I think just necessity just throws you into a corner sometimes. And whether you want to be ambitious or a go-getter, there's just no choice.
Yeah. Especially coming from where you come from. Did you also feel a sense of just like, okay, I'm here now, like I got to make the most out of my opportunities? And also it sounds like when you look back at your mom being so not hard on you, but having high expectations, do you appreciate that now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if she would have allowed me to, taken the time to adjust and stay in the ESL classes or go the easy route and take the Spanish classes, I mean, I don't know how I would have really been able to be successful and like learn and got the jobs that I've had and you know, have the drive that I have. So I think it's like, and also my mom and I have like a really special relationship because she had me, you know, I don't want to say young, but, you know, fairly young. And, you know, we kind of grew up together, right? So our relationship is also very different than like a typical, I guess, like mom-daughter relationship. So when we moved here, it was basically like it was her and I. We were a team. Like no matter how young I was, it was her and I, and that's it. So figure out where we lived, right? Like the kids, how that was gonna work out. I really became like her partner in life, not so much like her daughter. So
It's
like
a lot of responsibility at a young age.
yeah. And I was not aware of what was happening in that moment. I just knew that no matter what, we had to stick together and work as a team, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, just imagine like even her, right? 2 babies, a teenage daughter. So also me doing so well in school came from the mindset of I don't want to stress my mom out even more. Right?
You don't want to add more to her plate.
I don't want to add more her to play. She's so stressed out about like, you know, finding a place to live, right? So we're not living like in a car or this tiny little like studio. It was probably like half the size of this when we first moved. So I've always been just really conscious of like not adding extra stress to my parents just because I love and respect the hell out of them. Don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure there was a million times where I let her down or, you know, she felt disappointed, but I always try to not, you know, add on to what they have going on.
That is so
already.
considerate of you to be able to think that way growing up. Like that's just, I think that says a lot about you as a person, that you were already, something like that was already instilled in you, you know? Because a lot of people don't come to that realization or consciousness until they're older, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So it's amazing that you were able to, you know, help your mom out in that way without her maybe not even realizing it.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something that you said earlier. So you noticed that there was something different about you as you were growing up. And I was wondering how that plays a role in your today world, like even in your career, just personal, like when you're in a high level at a really like high level brand like you are now with Foot Locker, do you recognize your differences now with how you think, you know, just sourcing back to your culture and your upbringing and how that brings maybe a different mindset to the table when you're approaching a campaign or just a project? Like, does that, do you think about that in today's world?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm aware of it during every conversation, every pitch call, every interaction with people. I'm aware that I'm different, right? Whether that is good or bad sometimes, like I that's what makes me. Sometimes I have a hard time having, for example, like difficult conversations, right? But that has to do with my upbringing and you know the whole journey of like my parents, you know, separating and being so young and not really being able to have those open conversations and tough conversations. So there's so many parts about me that I'm aware and that I know that I need to work on, but I do know that I'm different. And I think that the reason why I'm different is because of my why. And I think that's why all of us are so different, right? So I'm aware.
What is your why?
Everything about me is just going to be rooted back to my family and togetherness. And I think like sometimes my happiness is really dependent upon, you know, my family, like making sure that my siblings are all good, you know, that they're healthy, that they're doing well at work, that their relationships are going well, etc. So like I carry a lot of that with me at all times. That can sometimes affect, you know, my day-to-day work, how I show up. But I also realize that I have a lot of people that depend on my mood, right? Like if you're managing a large team of people that live in different cities, you know, different ages, that have different perspectives, that plays a role into the leader of the group. So I'm very aware that, let's say that, you know, I just had a terrible personal situation go on, and, you know, of course I'm not a robot, but I am aware that if I, you know, start the call and I share the camera and my face is like, you know, a certain way, or like if my body language shows that I'm like annoyed or tired or whatever I'm going through, it automatically becomes a tone that's, pass down to the rest of the team members. So again, I'm human, and there's going to be times where like my frustration shows, and my team knows me so well that when something is going on, they'll call me and they say, hey, we can tell that something's off. Like we're here to just listen, right? We might not be able to help you, but just so you know, like we have your back, X, Y, and Z. So I am aware of that also because throughout my career journey, there's been people that have affected in the way that I move. So whether they're constantly being negative or when they're not nice to people, I always was aware of how I was feeling in the moment, in the presence of those people. And I don't want to be that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you can notice it in the way somebody interacts, you learn from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like from what you've been talking about just in this whole conversation, you're very observant, and you're not scared to look for feedback and learn from other people. And also, I think it's interesting to tie back to how your upbringing was with being considerate, just consideration, because you know that your mood affects other people, so you don't want to put that on other people the same way you didn't want to put more on your mom's plate. And I think it's interesting how that ties together.
Yeah, think about it. We're all going through something. That meme, that saying, like, be kind, everybody's going through something. All of us are.
Yes.
At any given moment, whether again it's like health, relationships, something at home, like it doesn't matter. Everyone is always going through something. And again, there's times where you do have to kind of keep that aspect a bit separate to get things done, right? You can't just at all times be like cuddly or like, but you do have to remember that, right?
Yeah.
So why would you come to a meeting or a certain space with like a negative attitude or like a negative tone when like, especially at work. This is just how we pay our rent, right? If you're lucky enough to find a job that not only helps you get your things done financially, but that you also love, then you should consider yourself really blessed. But that's not everybody's, situation. So most of us, obviously, I love what I do, but this is also just my job.
Yeah.
So I do have to keep that in mind sometimes too.
The balance. We were talking about that on
Yes.
camera, trying to find the balance, right?
Man.
It's a hard one. We could dive a little bit deeper into that. But I wanted to ask you, how did you get into marketing, or why did you want to choose to pursue getting in the marketing field?
It was honestly by accident. So when I graduated high school, I don't even think that I was 18 yet. My boyfriend's mom at the time worked for a local state agency for the county superintendent in San Bernardino. She got me a full-time job as a student worker, paid great. I was really young, I think making like $25 an hour. I mean, that was a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
So I was, I worked straight out of high school basically. And from that job, I moved up fairly quickly. So I ended up working for the IT department at the county's office. And about a year and a half into college, I decided to go for an IT major. So I was working towards my IT degree and everything was great. And then the longer that I worked in the government sector, I realized that if that's where I wanted to stay and fulfill my IT career, that I probably wasn't going to be happy because there was no room to be innovative or creative, right? Like it's government. So it's very much like a help desk type job, right?
Got you.
So while I was still going through that, a really good friend of mine at the time just randomly calls and says like, hey, I don't know what this is about, but it's a gig that pays like, I don't know, $50 an hour. And we just have to go to like this bar and talk to people. I was like, okay, cool. Whatever it is, like I'm up for it. Young,
Figuring
I
it
guess,
out.
/ naive, a little bit more open-minded. I'm like, all right, let's go do it. It was basically a promo girl job for a beer company.
Interesting.
And yeah, they pay hella money. You just go to like different bars, restaurants, you talk to people, you give them little samples and like encourage them to buy the drink. And, that's what kind of prompted me to start to ask questions. Like, what is this called? What is this type of marketing called?
Yeah.
And then, from there, I started to get more gigs as a promo model. And then that ended up really translating into me getting my first like a big girl job at Bacardi, which was like a bit of like a mix of like sales and marketing. But again, in the interim, that's when I decided that I wanted to get a marketing degree.
Okay.
But because I couldn't add a minor at the time, I ended up getting just like a second bachelor's, which it really just was maybe like another semester. I can't remember at the time.
Okay,
But
makes
that's
sense.
that's how I just kind of fell into it as a promo girl.
So the promo girl sparked the interest, and then you're just like, you know what? Let me actually get a degree in this.
Yeah.
And then here you are.
Because I realized that everything is marketing.
Yeah.
Everything around us. Everything, a logo, like I'm looking at your logo, I'm looking at your rug, like everything is marketing.
Yes.
Right. And marketing is not just like product, it include like services. So I was like, wow, if I get a job, if I get a degree in marketing, I'm almost like guaranteed a job.
Yeah, it
because
applies to
every
so much.
company, right? Like even research companies have entire marketing departments.
That's true.
So I'm like, all right, let me just give it a try.
Yeah, it
So-
applies to a lot of different industries. That's very good point. So you specialize, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like experiential marketing and then lifestyle and culture marketing.
That's exactly it.
So I was curious about your take on how brands, or how you even approach marketing from a standpoint of like driving community versus feeling transactional, because I think there's a lot of examples out there of like brands who kind of miss the mark there, that are maybe going for something that's community based or culture based, but they end up coming off as like transactional. So what's the difference between the two for you, and like how do you envision how you approach it?
I think there's a very fine line, right? Because at the end of the day, the reason why us marketers have jobs is because of the ROI.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be a commerciality that has to be tied into it, no matter what, right?
Right.
I would be a liar if I sat here and I said it's strictly about community. Of course, we're going to keep community at the forefront, and not every campaign is going to be either or. We basically, divvy up. What is this campaign supposed to look like? Is it supposed to make us rich? Is this supposed to make us famous? Is this meant to be strictly, as a give back to the community? Because every product is going to be different. Every priority is going to be different.
Yeah.
So some are going to be heavily, transactional, heavily, how do we drive like those sales and that traffic into the stores? And then some are purely, give backs, right? Donations of shoes across the board without any sort of ask of, how are you going to drive the sales? So, I think it's just about finding a balance. And I think that it also takes a little bit of courage to speak up in scenarios where it's feeling too much one way versus the other, right? Because like as a marketer, like I don't care what anybody says, we're still salespeople.
At the end of
So
the day, yeah.
I always tell my team, like, we might have like this community event, but like how do we then further tie in a piece that it doesn't have to be the highlight of the activation, but how do we also bring in some sort of like commercial aspect to it? So it's a fine line, man. And we don't always get it right. I'll be the first to acknowledge it, but I think like the intention's always right. And I think that our leaders of the company trust that we know community, better or, really well compared to some of our, other friends out there. But yeah, it's a balance.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I feel like it's even more challenging in today's world than maybe before. And I'm interested on your take about this because you've been doing it for a while now. But it seems like in today's world, when you look at the new generations, like they especially don't like being sold to, like, even if you're talking about digital media, like if they see an ad, like they immediately don't want to scroll. So your ad has to look like it's, organic, and it has to look like it's not an ad. So I think that's even more true in today's world too. It's just like hard to find that line and then also just control the psychology of it all. And it's challenging, right?
It's so hard because to
Yeah.
your point, like we are heavily focused on Gen Zers, right? And the way that you speak to them, what drives them, their purchasing habits, their purchasing, motives are so different than ours.
Yeah.
Especially in like sneaker culture, right? Like even the term sneakerhead is tied to, a negative tone within the Gen Z, generation. So it's not easy, like at all.
It's like a new way to speak to somebody, and it's just what applies to them doesn't apply to the other generations.
No, and even then, there's so many other different dynamics that you have to consider, right? Like
Yeah.
West Coast versus East Coast.
That's true.
And like,
Subcultures.
And even by city, there's nuances by city where like, okay, this is going to make sense in New York, but that would never work in LA and vice versa. So that's why I really do feel proud of like where my team is at, because we do have managers in every key city, and really they're the ones that tell us like, hey, Pete, like that sounds cool. Maybe in LA, that's not going to work in like Philly or like Atlanta and, you know, etc.
Yeah, it must be important to have the team members out there, because you wouldn't know if
How?
somebody didn't tell, how would you?
Right.
Yeah. For sure. So I'm curious, because I feel like Foot Locker does a good job at this, but how does a brand show up being in the culture versus just like coming up in it, if that makes sense? So like, I feel like Foot Locker is in the culture, like Foot Locker is part of the culture and it has its own way of culture, versus a brand who just might like show up and do a pop-up and try to like capitalize off of that community and culture.
Yeah, I think that's something that we do really well, is that, you know, we stand on, you know, being looked at as the number one destination for like all things basketball, right?
Yeah.
But you can't really make that claim if you are not ingrained in basketball culture, in the basketball community. So from as partnerships as large as the one that we have with the NBA, to literally doing like hands-on clinics with kids from just, you know, small communities across the US, that is how you show up. I think that some brands might miss the mark by, I don't know, maybe a brand came up with like a Coachella or like a music inspired campaign, right? But then they were nowhere in sight at Coachella.
Yeah.
Or they were nowhere in where, like, you have to go meet people where they are. You have to go meet the consumer where they are. And that's like a big theme of what we're doing now. So Gen Zers, we have to go meet them where they're at versus forcing them to come into our spaces.
Yes.
So I think that's where sometimes, you know, people might say, you know, we're for the culture, but like, are you really? Were you there? Did you talk to the people that you claim that you want to market to? So I think that's kind of like the difference.
Because there is a lot of brands out there that might do one collection that appeases to whatever that audience is, but they aren't really part of that. And it comes off sometimes as a little bit off-putting. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, we're not very forgiving
Yes.
in today's culture.
Consumers.
You know, cancel culture just continues to be very evident. So I think that's where like brands, you know, but I think sometimes that we fail to realize when we talk about brands, it's people behind those brands.
Yeah.
And people we're not perfect, you know, beings. So I think is where too, I also remind myself when there's a campaign that I don't agree with, or like a product or a shoe that people, you know, have all these opinions about. I always do try to remember there's people behind this project. Right? Like we have to remember that, and we don't always get it right. I know there's been instances where big brands, you know, have totally failed, and I do acknowledge that, and there's no really excuses, but we have to, you know, remember it's us, like you and I in this room, that are trying to build a brand and making decisions.
Yeah.
So we have to try to just
Have grace.
Yes. Have grace for people.
I think it's hard to see now because of the digital world we live in. It's hard to forget that they're, like you're saying, people are behind these brands.
Yeah.
It's not just like a faceless person that you're communicating with.
Right.
Yeah. So I was curious on your thoughts, like what's worse, a brand that tries too hard to fit into the culture or a brand that just ignores the culture altogether?
I think trying too hard, because I don't think that every single brand needs to be a part of the culture.
That's a good point.
So if you think like, you know, the sneaker industry, fashion, food, music, yes, they should be ingrained in the culture, because that's going to drive relevancy, advocacy within the communities. But if you think about like a toilet paper company,
Yeah.
I just want to know that it's durable and soft and reliable,
Yes.
right? Or like plumbing services, it's all about like quality and like a legacy. I'm not necessarily worried whether they're having a pop-up at X, Y, and Z.
true.
So I have seen brands in those spaces and it just doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, A for effort, love that y'all are being, you know, or the brands are trying to be part of the community, but it just doesn't always make sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point, because there could be some brands that try to show up in adjacent cultures, but they don't need to. I feel like the people will also tell you, right? Like if it's not resonating, they're not going to rock with it. And that should tell you. Has there ever been a moment like that for you where you've kind of like, maybe we're really excited for a campaign or project and thought it was going to do well, but it just didn't really hit the mark?
Always.
Yeah.
I mean, not always like all of our campaigns, but there's always going to be a campaign here and there where, oh, damn, we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
We should have done this, but that's part of learning, right? That's part of like getting better and gaining that confidence. If you don't make mistakes, there's no room to grow.
Yeah.
So of course, I mean, me and my team will sit, and debrief like, damn, we should have done that.
Yeah. Yeah. Monday morning
It's-
quarterbacking.
It's part of the experience, man.
Yeah.
And you got to just take, as much as you want to receive, applaud and recognition, you got to be able to take the heat too. And it's part of it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
important though, because I know a lot of brands out there that will try to, in marketing at least, will try to like cover things or paint them as good. Because it's all storytelling. Like you can make something look good if you really want to when reporting out on it,
course,
right?
right.
But if you're able to like take the L and just be like, this is what happened. It's not good, but we can take a learning from it. You're just gonna get better because if you ignore it and just be like, oh yeah, sweep it under the rug. This performed well. Look at this might not have done well, but look how well this performed. It's like you're not doing yourself any good, right?
Yeah, and it depends on the campaign, whether it's like digital or like in real life. So
Yeah.
like my team focuses on experiential. We get one chance to get it right. There is no reshooting the campaign. There's no altering of the lighting and the colors of the image. We get one time to do it right.
That's true.
We don't get to do the event all over again. We don't get to, when we're doing like talent appearances, we don't get to have the talent walk back to the green room and come back out and do it all over again.
Yeah.
So the amount of things on the back end that always go wrong, I mean, you have no idea.
Really?
But what we focus on is whether or not the consumer was able to tell. Back of house production is a different story, right? But from a consumer facing standpoint, it's kind of like when you go to a wedding and then the bride, weeks later is like, oh my gosh, like the DJ messed up the song for when we were entering, or the caterer did this, and you attended the wedding. You're like, oh,
Didn't notice
I didn't
any
even
of that.
notice.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point, right? So that is kind of what we focus on. Did this alter the consumer journey or the consumer experience? And if yes or no, then sometimes like in the moment, you can't address things, right?
Yeah.
Like if this was like really live and I said something out of pocket, then now it's out there for
It's
the
out
world.
there, yeah.
But you can go back and cut and edit this so that it makes sense. And if like I'm
Yeah.
being too repetitive or something just doesn't sound, right, you're able to fix it. But we don't get that chance all the time.
No, you get
Nope.
one chance to make that vibe. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, on the other side of that, is there like a specific campaign or project that you worked on that you're really proud of or that made a really big impact that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to sound like really, but just there's something so beautiful about every single campaign, right? There's some campaigns that mean more for a particular reason, but it doesn't mean that it was because of like impact or like sales or, anything of that nature. I mean, there's projects that have been huge in terms of like budget and production
Yeah.
that we've been able to pull off in 2 weeks, right? There's events where we've planned for 6 months straight, and my highlight was hearing from like a kiddo, like how much fun they had. So again, every event's gonna, resonate with me like a little bit differently, and like reasons why I feel so proud, because of that particular project. But, all of them are special. There's not one
Yeah.
where, I walk away not feeling really, really proud. I'm always going to be, again, really self-aware of what could have, gone better. But for the most part, all of them. And there's so many that we do too that, that's something that my team is so good at. It's just, it never stops,
Yeah.
right? When you think you're done with one, I mean, now you got to go back and look at the recap and everything else while you're already, halfway through another project. So, yeah, it's a lot to kind of juggle, but all of them are special to me.
That's good to hear. That's
Yeah.
like the outlook on it.
Yeah.
There's always something good to take away. There's always something bad to take away.
Yeah.
Also, I was curious because I feel like your role and then where you're at in your career has taken you to some pretty cool places, right? And be able to experience some like really cool things. Does that ever cross your mind of just like, I'm able to experience all of these amazing things because of the work that I put in? Do you ever like revisit that or just like recollect on your life where you're at right now and how you got there?
You have no idea. So there's one particular moment where it just literally brought me to tears.
Oh, wow.
And I'm actually wearing the shoes. So these are the El Grito inspired Jordan 5s. And they were gifted to me during a Jordan brand activation in Mexico City.
Wow. Wow. Full
So
circle. Wow.
in my hometown, with my friends, a couple family members. I just couldn't believe that that was my life.
Yeah, that's gotta
So
be a moment.
yeah, but every day, and this is something that I talk about, amongst my peers, that some of us take for granted what we do and the spaces that we're in, right? Like I just
Yeah.
recently went to the NBA draft, right? And it was like, what the heck? Like what am I doing here? But yeah, so many like cities that I get to go to, so many people that I get to meet. It's just insane sometimes to
Does-
really think about it.
Does it become normal for you? Because I'm sure maybe at first it was just like this feeling of excitement and oh my God, like I can't believe I'm in the room with this person, or I'm, at this event that's being put on by this huge
Yeah.
company or brand.
Yeah.
And like as you go on, does it get a little bit less like or more normal for you? Or does you still get that special feeling inside?
Yeah, I think that at some point you do have to quote unquote like normalize it so
Yeah.
that you're able to move in those rooms, right? Because like when you show up, you're expected to be, professional and not necessarily have the energy of like you being there as a fan, right? You're
Yeah.
there as like the partner of, whatever athlete or, whomever you're around. So I'm not oblivious to like how it's perceived too.
Yeah.
But I think that, this is not my first job in which I've been in incredible spaces and places when I worked at Bacardi.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that I got to see, the foods that I got to eat, the cocktails that I was able to taste, the restaurants that I was able to visit, like it's been such a long time of
Yeah.
me being in those spaces. So I'm able to like keep cool, calm, collected, but never not appreciative or thankful. And I think it takes sometimes people that don't work in the space to say, hey, damn, like you went to that?
Yeah.
Like you were like next to such and such. And sometimes I sit back and I'm like, oh, damn, you're right.
Yeah, I was.
I really was like, that's just an incredible feeling. And like, hopefully I'm, what means to me is like when I'm able to bring, people along the journey. So maybe, if there's an event where I'm able to bring my brother or like, my mom, when, I've been, just lucky enough to get maybe tickets to go to like a concert or like a game and bringing my mom along the journey. That's what is really like,
I agree with that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I've worked for some companies and been in some similar situations to you where it's just like if you weren't working for this company, then you wouldn't be experiencing this, or if you weren't in this role, you wouldn't. And when you take that person, their eyes are just like it's like watching them experience something for the first time, and it makes you feel a certain type of way, right?
no, seriously. What we don't
Yeah.
realize about our parents is that, like, especially with my mom, like, there's a saying out there, she's literally just a girl, too.
That's true.
She wants to go and do all the fun stuff and the cute stuff. And, if I can bring her, why the heck not? If I can bring my brother or my sister, and why not? That's what it's about. It's
Yeah.
not always an option. These careers can be a very lonely path as well. Like, when I'm always on the road and I don't get to see my family for months at a time, my loved ones, it can get really lonely. So I think too,
Yeah.
as much as like, the good and the excitement that comes with these jobs, it can also be very lonely.
There's the
right?
trade-off too.
It's the trade-off. So, of course, it's like our jobs to make our jobs seem very, desirable and like glamorous.
Market your marketing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's how I don't plan on being at this job forever. Like I need to make sure that also I'm setting up people to want to be in my role. But yeah, it gets hard, always in the airport, delays, not sleeping in my bed, not having control over the things that keep me balanced from like the things that I eat. Sometimes I can't work out for a week straight. And that to me is like a non-negotiable.
Working out, is that your activeness is important to you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like my friends know. I don't care where I'm at. Like we can be literally in Europe, like just went to Turks and Caicos with my girlfriends. Doesn't matter where we're at. Like I'm always gonna make it a point to move. It doesn't always have to be like this extensive like
Yeah.
workout that I would typically do, when I'm home, but some sort of movement, something is really important to me. Mainly from like a health perspective, but then like just like sanity sometimes.
Your mental health.
So
That's kind of making
Yeah.
time for yourself, right?
that's the only thing that I have for myself sometimes.
Which I'm like super impressed at how you even do everything that's on your plate, because like you have so much going on. How do you balance? I know we were talking a little bit about it off camera, but
Yeah.
how do you try to balance everything that comes with having such a huge family? You guys are close, communicate all the time. You know, you have your friends, your life, your work life, you're traveling, like working out, all active. Like you sometimes some have to suffer. Like, how do you balance it all?
Always. Like the saying of like work-life balance, it is a concept that I'm not familiar with, right? At times it's going to be all work.
Yeah.
But then at times it needs to be just all me and my family. So a lot of planning, man. Like planning in advance is the only way that I can function. Like even my friends literally will schedule a dinner 3 months out.
Jeez,
It sounds
3 months out.
ridiculous, but that's the only way, right?
Yeah.
Like for me to plan to go see my dad, I'm very just, intentional about when I plan that. So my dad's birthday, June 17th, I'll always be in Mexico City during that time. So I know with work, if there's a flexibility to not schedule something within that time frame, I'm already aware of it.
Got you.
Because that's it. Planning.
Non-negotiable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could imagine, like, yeah, also when we were talking about trade-offs, I feel like this is one of them, like spontaneity. Like
I wish I could.
Yeah, I know. With the heavy workload that you have, how it's hard to be spontaneous, you know?
It really is, because it takes even like mental preparation to sometimes go out with friends.
Yeah.
It takes mental preparation to even be in like large family settings. Like, it's part of it, but yeah, I mean, planning, and everybody around me knows, as much as I just would want to get up and go and do something, it's just not my reality.
Yeah.
So, sometimes people are not okay with that either.
That's true.
And
it takes a certain type of person to understand what that's like and not take offense to it, right?
Yeah.
Because some people could feel like, oh, she doesn't want to see me, or she doesn't want to make time for me. But it's not personal. It's like,
No.
I literally can't.
No.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, sorry, can't, not available. And I think sometimes too, I saw it not too long ago. It's like, you can't mistake somebody's free time, availability of free time. So just because, let's say this weekend I'm not traveling, it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily like available or like willing to go and do the things. Sometimes I just need to be at home and clean my house and do my laundry and clean my patio that I haven't cleaned in 3 months. So I think it's like that too. But at the same time, I can't take for granted like how many people want my time.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's people that are really lonely. So again, trying to be considerate. When my friends are constantly asking me, hey, P, let's go out to dinner. When are you available? I also can't take that for granted.
That's
because
true.
what if one day the phone stops ringing and nobody wants to spend time with me and be around me? So it's that balance.
It's like you're trying to create this empire for yourself, but you can't forget about the other parts. That's hard.
Isolate people, because people just want to genuinely be there for me. And they're not asking for anything in exchange except my physical body to be present and my mind to be present in that moment.
Yeah.
So, it's hard.
Would you say this is one of like the more challenging things for you? Like in
Oh,
life?
yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, it's funny because I talked to my mom about this. I've always been that way.
Oh, really?
Even since I was little, I've always just been that person that I just want to be at home. I just want to be with my parents. I just want to be with my mom. Even when I was young and like some of my best friends had their like little birthday parties, I never wanted to go. I just wanted to be at home with my mom. And then my mom would tell me, like, you have to go. You have to show up for people.
Yeah.
And the same way that people love you and like adore you and they show up for you, you have to do the same.
That's a good point.
So I think as I got a little bit older, I was aware that I can't expect people to be there for me all the time when I don't reciprocate the energy.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
It just takes
Yeah.
more work for you than the average person to do that. And I hope that your friends and the people that you show up for realize that like you showing up for them is not the same as somebody who doesn't really have much going on showing up for them. It's like you're devoting your valuable time and energy, that because I'm sure the time that you're spending with them it's like the you time or it's your family time that you value so much. So I hope that they can appreciate that, you know?
I'm so lucky. I have the best friends that anyone could ask for, and I have different groups of friends, and we interact so differently.
Really?
So even for that, like I'm so grateful. I have like my friends that live right around this area,
Yeah.
and I met them at a CrossFit gym like 10 years ago, and I see them every day because we work out at one of my friends' homes.
Oh, okay.
So at the end of the workday, I'm able to like decompress and talk to them and spend time with them. But then I have like my OG friends from like 20 plus years ago, but then we live all over the place. So I don't see them all the time, but they are like, I'm not exaggerating, they're sisters to me.
Wow.
So even that balance of like friends and what's so special about all of them is that right away they know when something's wrong.
Oh, because they know you
If
so
I'm
well.
a little too quiet, if I just post something on social, like right away they'll be like, "P, what's wrong? Talk to me." I'm like, "Oh no, like I'm good." And they're like, "Okay, just making sure, because
Yeah.
you know my intuition said that maybe you're like," and so
They're
I
usually
just
right.
yes. I'm like, "You're a witch. Like, how did you know?" So yeah, I can't take all my friendships for granted because they really do, you know, watch out for me and take care of me.
Yeah, those some long friendships too.
Oh yeah,
10, 20 years.
long time.
Yeah, they call you P.
Oh yeah, yeah. They used to call me Pilo in high school, and then I
Pilo?
dropped the low. Yeah, for J-Lo.
Oh, okay.
Listen.
Now there's a rapper.
Yeah.
named Pilo.
Yes. And it's so funny. So like completely off topic, but I went to Vegas with a friend of mine, and he was able to put like my picture and all the digital walls at the club. And then in the middle of the night, I saw like, oh, you know, happy birthday, Pilo. And I thought it was me. No, literally Pilo was at the
Oh, Pilo
table.
was there.
And I ended up meeting him, and I was like, "Hey, we gotta hash this out. Like, I'm Pilo too. Like, what are we
Wow.
gonna do?" And I'm actually cool with him. Like, we're friends on IG and everything.
Well,
so
how funny.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
was so
actually
funny.
something that happened in your life. You're both Pilos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I wanted to transition a little bit to an important topic as well for you, which is just being a woman in a male dominated space, you know, whether that's in sports, sometimes in a corporate space,
Yeah.
retail. So how was it for you to carve out that space? I know you mentioned that sometimes you have to like bring out different parts of yourself, like more assertive than maybe you want to be, so people can respect you and,
Yeah.
and whatnot. So how did you carve out this lane for yourself as a woman in a male dominated space?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've always been in male-dominated spaces. Even when I worked at Bacardi, you know, not only was I a female, but I was so young, working in an industry where, honestly, I think it's meant to be for people that are a bit more like mature and seasoned. Now that I look back and think about some of the scenarios that I was put in and in situations, I'm like, that was not a place for a young woman
Really?
to be a part in, like at all. But I mean,
And is that industry like the alcohol and spirits industry that you're talking about?
yeah,
Okay.
it's a wild place.
Really?
It's a wild place. But because of those experiences, I just learned to be tough. I remember some of my first sales jobs at Bacardi were in South Orange County. So that should tell you the diversity or lack thereof.
Yes.
So imagine like a 22-year-old Paulina, you know, going into these just like high-end restaurants in which the only people that looked like me were in the kitchen.
Wow.
And my job was to go and sell the owner of this establishment 100 cases of Grey Goose, right? So I would get just demolished, right? Like so many times they would literally tell me to just go back to the kitchen,
Are you
assuming that I
serious?
was
Think
kitchen staff,
comments
which
like that?
I don't take it offensively.
Yeah.
Because I am so proud of my people that keep our service industry running. So I never took it offensively. But yeah, I would have like some of these bar owners look at me and say, I'm not going to talk to you.
Just because of the way you look?
Of course.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, put a blindfold on because I don't know what to tell you. I'm not leaving here until you talk to me.
You're standing on business still.
I mean, what was I gonna
Yeah.
go and tell my boss? Like, hey, I'm so sorry, I couldn't really like make that call today because they said they don't like what I look like.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Plenty of times I'd go back in the car, cry for like a little bit, and then come back and just, you know, dust myself off and try again. But
Wow.
it was tough, man.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of helped me realize that this is not going to be easy. I'm going to have to work so hard and really like learn my business so that, you know, once I get to talking, maybe and hopefully they get to realize that I know a little bit of like what I'm doing and what I'm talking about. So I've always had to deal with that. I think like being aware is the first step, right? That you're always going to encounter differences in how people like look at you, and like not just being a girl, but like sometimes I think society fails to realize that I'm not just a professional like at work, like I'm also very much a woman, right? So like all the aspects of like womanhood that come with it is like a really hard balance, because you're always going to make somebody upset, whether like, oh, you know, like she's, you know, on vacation and she's showing too much skin, or oh, she wore this, or she said that, or you know, she is always like ready and done up.
There's always something to scrutinize.
Always.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it gets to me sometimes. You know, I think like people sometimes might look at me and try to just discredit, you know, what I've been through, and not even just like my accomplishments, right? The hard work that I put in. So I you know, did everything that I was supposed to do. I went to college and got my bachelor's and got my master's, and I've had 2 or 3 jobs at a time, and I've pulled off the all-nighters, and I've taken jobs that I hated, and I've put in the work.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that that's where sometimes I just get a little bit discouraged, because obviously I'm also not one to at all times like feel the need to constantly be vocal about my accomplishments, right? Like I'm just not that person. I'm not gonna put in my bio like all the things that I've done and all the accolades that I've received, and that's just not who I am.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think like then people try to automatically discredit me, and once they engage in conversation with me, they're able to learn like who I am as a person, as an individual, as a marketer, as a professional. But yeah, man, it's hard. And then men right away, right, they'll think that, you know, the conversation can go a certain way when we're really just trying to be focused on, you know, the task at hand and not the shenanigans. So it's hard.
Sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
So many different variables. And then here you are trying to do your job and all the things that you went through to get there. Is it something that you still deal with? Is it always something that's kind of a constant?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Every day.
Every day.
Every single day. It's just a balance between staying, to your point, gracious, but at the same time making sure that, like I said, you know, when we're having the offline conversation, like standing up a little bit straighter and being a little bit more, you know, vocal, and even my voice has to switch up a little when I'm trying to like make a point. And it's the code switching, man, like at all times.
Yeah, the code switching, as we mentioned, it's a very undervalued skill or underestimated skill, being able to code switch.
Oh yeah.
You're like, we're playing the game, let's play it then, right?
and I think that's something that I do really well. Like I've worked in corporate my whole life, and I know how some people might feel about, you know, corporate life or whatnot, but you know, everybody's journey is different too. But yeah, I move in every new room, in any room. I know how to code switch. And even like in these spaces too, it's like, I mean, we sell sneakers, man.
Yeah.
Like
it's not life or death.
Yeah. And like me, I'm also like, you know, back to my parents, I'm also not very serious. Like I'm always just like joking about something, you know. That's how my mom kind of like moved through life too. Even when like things were going really bad, like we would just sit there and laugh about it. So I think that that's something that I feel proud that I bring it to the workplace. Like sometimes when like these calls start and like everybody maybe has a long face because we just got off like a feedback call or something, I always try to bring up like a little bit of like a fun energy. And even when I worked at Bacardi, it was something that we would always tell each other, like, y'all, we are selling drinks. We're not saving lives. We don't sell Bibles. Like we sell alcohol for a living. I sell shoes for a living. So we have to remember that
approach.
Yeah.
Just kind of like dehumanizing it. Like, yeah, let's take a beat. It's not that serious.
We're not saving lives.
Yeah. At the end of the day.
At all.
I like to view that the same way. And then it makes you feel better. You're just like, you know what? You're right. Like, it's going to be fine. Whatever happens, like we'll do better. But It's not the end of the world right now.
Sometimes it feels like it because, obviously, like when there's a lot of money at stake, a lot of investment in people, I think it's more about not wanting to let people down. And that's where the pressure comes in. But yeah, man, we're just selling some shoes here.
Yeah, there's a lot of responsibility in place, but I completely agree with that. Are there ever times where you felt like undervalued or underestimated?
Oh, yeah. At different points in my career, there would always be an excuse as of why I wasn't given that job or that promotion or the ability to attend a meeting or be a part of a project from the beginning, right? There's always going to be an instance in which I felt, undervalued. And I think sometimes too, it's up to us to allow, that feeling.
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes you to walk out the room for your presence or lack thereof to be felt.
Oh,
So,
the absence.
Yeah, because I think what some of us sometimes fail to realize is that companies really don't owe us anything and vice versa, right? We are in a job until it no longer serves us. And we are part of a company until we no longer serve that company.
That's true.
So if you accept a certain level of whatever you want to call it, right? Like lack of acknowledgement, then that's kind of like up to you whether or not you choose to accept it and move forward. And it's okay during certain times to be okay with it, right? Because you have a bigger purpose, you have a bigger plan. Like, hey, I know that if I stay at this company, they're never going to move me up, right? But I know that I still have this much time left in me before I take off with either like my entrepreneurial journey or this other project that I want to take off. I think that's what people fail to realize too, right? Like you also have to think of like, it is a transaction.
Yeah,
right?
it's a transactional approach. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think we get caught up on that this company owes me X, Y, and Z. They don't owe you anything.
They really don't. Yeah.
And we don't owe them
fire you
anything.
tomorrow.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I could also
Quit tomorrow.
I could get a promotion today.
That's true.
And then get better job in 2 weeks. And I would still leave them.
Yeah.
Would you right?
Yeah.
Like if you get a better opportunity, you got to do what's best for you, and the company has to do what's best on their behalf
It's
too.
important to never forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that persistence is an important part in what we're talking about too, with just maybe when you're undervalued or underestimated? Because I know you spend a lot of time at Bacardi.
Mm-hmm.
You've been at Foot Locker for about a good 5 years now, right? Or since 2020 or when?
I think close to 4.
Close to 4?
Yeah, I felt like a little bit longer, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like your whole life is a good example of persistence, like you, no matter what people say, if they try to discredit you or degrade you, like you just seem like you continue to put in the work no matter what. And like sometimes it affects you, like you're saying, but at the end of the day, you're still moving. And I feel like that's a big attribute to why you are where you are today. Like you kind of sound like you're keeping the outside noise where it's at, and that you're continuing to just do what you know you need to do to get to where you need to get to.
Yeah, and consistency, right?
Yeah,
like
consistency
you have
too.
you have to be consistent at who you preach, who you are. So yeah, I think I am so grateful for my journey at Bacardi, but it was time for me to go.
Yeah.
Right? Like they were in a position where there was no opportunities for me. So it was up to me to leave that situation in order to get better. Because hey, we get comfortable.
Yeah.
Who wants to be the new kid in school? You have to learn new processes. You have to, prove yourself. You have to learn the systems. You have to, even like small things. You got to start over with like your healthcare. You got to start over with your investment, accounts, and build relationships with people, because like that's what has really gotten me in a lot of really positive, good situations.
Relationship building.
Relationships and trust. And that is what it is all about. And I wish people really, truly understood the concept, not just talked about it, really understood it. Yeah.
You have to make first impressions all over again. There's a lot of unknowns too. Like you don't know what you're stepping into. You have an idea of it based off of like who you're interviewed by, but at the end of the day, you could be stepping in a situation that could be like a really toxic work environment. You just really don't know. You're taking a risk.
Yeah.
But Touching on what you just spoke about, like relationship building, what are some of the things or codes that you have uncovered throughout your career so far that you think would be very valuable to listeners or watchers?
Well, I learned that lesson really early on at Bacardi. So your task when you work in such a field is to first and foremost to build a relationship. So I would spend 2 to 3 months going to that same account. When I say account, it's either like a bar or like a restaurant or like a grocery store, strictly getting to know the people, from the owner to the security guy at the door, to the lady in the bathroom, to the cooks, to the chefs, to the valet guy, strictly building the relationship, right? Getting to know them, who they are, their families, what excites them, before I even had the opportunity to sit down and talk about volume and cases and business.
Wow.
So that early on, it was basically like the number one reason why people failed at the job, because they would walk in, they would walk in. The rule was like, you don't even bring your laptop, and you wear comfortable, like regular clothes, so that when you walk in, people don't immediately feel tense when they feel you walk in with like your suit or like your book or like your laptop, right? Because automatically feels like, oh shit, what are they about to sell me?
Yeah.
So that was like the number one rule in the liquor business, right? Build relationships. So that's where that came from.
Okay.
You know, really like genuinely getting to know people, and like people would eventually soften up. Like, you know, the examples that I was throwing at you, people would eventually soften up. And even if it's somebody that looks completely different than what I look like, or even like the age gap, or somebody that's like from the East Coast, all of us have one thing in common, whether that is like our love for coffee or love for staying up late at night or being like a morning person. There's always going to be something that you can find that's something in common, is going to help you build on that relationship. So
You just have to find out what that commonality is, right?
And you got to sit down and talk, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. You carry that with you today, those same type of relationship building aspects. I'm sure they still
Always.
serve you, right?
I mean, yeah, if you don't build relationship with people, like, you know, I think about it in the workplace. If you and I build a relationship, right, and I get to trust you, I'm going to go so hard for you. Even when things are not going right, you're going to find that level of like trust and confidence to be like, hey, Pete, do you have a second? So this is what happened, right? This didn't go right. I don't know how to fix it. You know, how do we make it better? Is there something that we can do right now? But when you don't have a relationship with people and something's not going right, I'm scared to pick up the phone and call you and tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Sometimes
So
you won't tell them.
You won't tell them.
Because you don't have that relationship.
But then the worst thing that can happen is for them to find out through somebody else.
True.
So that's the type of relationship that I currently have developed with my boss, and is very much like, hey, I just have to tell you, I messed up, right? And accountability has to be something that's instilled at such an early age, because something that I encounter even like today is that lack of accountability.
Yeah.
We're human. If you messed up, I'm going to understand, but you can't sit here with a straight face and tell me that it's not something that you could have done better or something that you potentially missed.
Yeah.
There is so much going on in the world alone that I don't even know how any one of us can stay focused on a job that is continuously asking us to be so, you know, performative.
Yeah.
So I think accountability is huge, but then with that comes a relationship. So just...
I agree with that. I think the accountability builds trust. Like if you're going to own up to something and just take accountability for it, it's like telling me that, you know, you would tell me if something went wrong again in the future.
Yep.
And I think the relation aspect that you talked about before, it's like if I have a good relationship, for example, for my boss, like I want to work that much harder for him if he asked me to do something, you know, versus like if I didn't have a relationship with him and everything was just transactional, it's just like, all right, I'm gonna do the job. I might not go the extra mile for you as I would for somebody that I have a good relationship with, right?
That's a reality, right?
Yeah.
Like if I don't have a relationship with you and you're asking me to do something that's outside a timeline, I'm gonna go, you missed it. You know, but if I have such a good, strong relationship with you, and I know that there's gonna be also a mutual level of understanding, right? Like, hey, you're coming at me with this crazy ask, I'm gonna say yes. But if X, Y, and Z, which in advance I'm telling you could potentially go wrong, you can't come back to me. This is a mutual understanding,
Yes.
you know, handshake contract type stuff that we both have to be all in for too. So
Couldn't agree more. There's so many different variables of like this relationship thing. I want to transition back though to the topic of just being a woman in your space.
Yeah.
Do you feel the need or responsibility to open doors for other women that maybe look up to you or want to be in similar spaces that you're at?
Yeah. I don't want to say just necessarily opening doors, but at least be a resource.
Okay.
So when I go and do like certain, speaking engagements and things of that nature, I'm aware that I'm going to have to be someone that's willing to have that conversation, share my contact information, my LinkedIn, have a quick, coffee chat. I think that is where I feel the responsibility. I don't know that it's always going to be up to me to make room, right? Because a lot of things are just way above my control.
That's
but what I
true.
can do is give my advice, my point of view, the things that have helped me, the things that have held me back, and then really just be a resource. But then with that, I will always be a champion for anyone that is, coming up with a product or is working on a campaign. I will always use my platform and my resources to share that out. And I think, gatekeeping is something that, it's a way to do that, gatekeep people from opportunities. So if somebody comes up to me with like, hey, can you share your vendor for X, Y, and Z? Can you share how you were able to get on it's such like seating list? I think that's what it's about a little bit more, like resource sharing, and then being open to being sometimes just listening, right?
Yeah.
Sitting down and listening. Yeah.
Not being mentors
Yeah,
most of people.
right.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like doing what you can for people, but you can't do everything. Because you could give somebody, the keys to the car, but they got to drive it. You can't drive it for them. What's that saying? You could lead a horse to water, but you can't make them
Yeah.
drink.
And like, I hate to overpromise and underdeliver, right? So like, I also can't make promises about, you're going to get this gig or that gig, or I also don't know, right?
Yep.
I put people in situations where I've lobbed the opportunity, and then they get to the interview and they don't do the research, they don't prepare. And then I'll get a call like, hey, we gave your friend a chance, but showed up late, didn't ask questions, never followed up. So I can't do it for you either.
That's true. Yeah. And a lot of times, like, you got to also protect sometimes your own word. Because if you're just helping everybody and giving everybody like your cosign, what good does your cosign do to situations where
It's not.
it's not valuable.
I learned that too really early.
Really?
Oh yeah. Putting, writing letters of recommendation. I don't even think it's a thing anymore. I think your social, your digital footprint is sort of like that now. But yeah, plenty of times where, again, just wanting to be super nice and overextending myself and not really knowing who that person was and putting my name behind that person, it did backfire a bit. And I had to be acknowledging of that, like, hey, my bad, I probably shouldn't have put my name behind this person. I will always like pass your resume along, but for me to say like, hey, I am recommending this person, it's a different level of an ask,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You live and you learn, I guess, right? Totally. What would be one piece of advice that you would give to women who want to break into sports, women that want to break into marketing at an exec level? Like, what would be some advice that you have for them?
I think is a networking aspect,
Okay.
This is where that balance between, work and personal and all that kind of stuff. There's so many events that I don't necessarily want to go to, but I know that it's going to, be a situation in which I could meet other women that are powerful in the space. So it's that balance, and those decisions, you have to make them for yourself, right? Like you can't be at home in your living room every single day and expect for people to vouch for you or get to meet people that are going to, say your name in rooms where you're not at. You have to be out there in the real world and going to the events and the things, so that you can be in the rooms with people. So
it's a lost art in today's world because everybody just send a DM and be like, all right, this is my attempt. But so much magic could happen by running into people.
Yeah.
Especially if you live in LA or Southern California, maybe it's different for you if you live, at least in this space, in like Missouri or something like that. But in LA, you could run into the right person. One person could change your life, right? The right connection or relationship.
Yeah, there's no excuse. If you live, like you said, in LA, in New York, in Chicago, in Miami, I mean, at least in LA, this weekend alone, there's like 8 different basketball related activities.
Yeah.
There's a Mamba League, like Venice Beach Ball. There's like a LaMelo, pop up at the Complex Space in LA, the Puma one.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something. So if you are not in the rooms for the who's, that's because of you, right?
Yeah.
Like there's always going to be the opportunity. And I get it. Sometimes it's just not the right time to go up to somebody and shake hands. But sometimes it's just like doing a follow-up. Sometimes the DMs do work.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go to events and I don't get to talk to a lot of people, and I'll get a DM like, I really wanted to connect with you. I couldn't do it, but X, Y, and Z, or you tagging the brand, sometimes get you a little bit of attention. So there's so many different ways to network now. And I also, come from like a different mindset to where like, there's just no excuses for anything, man.
No, yeah. If you really want to get it done, there's ways to do it. You're not going to be perfect, but everything that you're saying right now, it sounds like you're increasing your odds. You know what I mean? Just like by any means possible. Like maybe if I got to get around this person in real life or shoot that DM, you have a reference, somebody could refer you. There's all types of ways. I think even personally for me, even with this show, there's been like a couple of guests that were like really important for me to get on. And like I had been trying to DM them, ask their homie, ask such and such to vouch for me, and like all of it would just like not align. Like either person was too busy or just like it fell off, and it just took me to run into this person at an event, chop it up with them, like, oh yeah, I'm down, let's do it. And I had been trying so hard before that, but me just meeting that person and in real life, like it was all that was needed. So I definitely can attest to that being the situation for sure.
Even us, we had to reschedule, right?
Yeah.
But then you made sure to follow up and say, hey,
that's a good point.
We needed to reschedule. Like, when are you available? Because sometimes, my phone and my calendar, my to-do, this is how I function. If it's not on my to-do, my calendar, it's not happening. So I really appreciated that you had the incentive to follow up. Because, and then too, I get sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, this person is just not being responsive. I'm just gonna back off. And that's also okay, but I really appreciated that you messaged me again, and like here we are.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think coming from the opposite ends of somebody who's just like asking of a favor, because that's what it is, like you don't have to do this, and I'm so grateful that you're here and I'm enjoying this conversation so much, and you're dropping gems that I can't wait to put out. But I think that it's important for people to understand, coming from the side where you're asking somebody else for something, you really have to come from like a humble standpoint. Like, this person, you might not have a great relationship with them yet, and you might not have built that bonding yet, and they don't owe you anything. Just like you were saying, the company doesn't owe you anything. Like, as an employee, you don't owe anybody something. Like, the person you're asking a favor, they don't really owe you anything. They don't have to do anything for you. So you can't take it personal if they have things that pop up. This show is a perfect example of that. Like, I just have to be understanding that like these people have busy schedules, and oftentimes, if I'm talking, I'm very like intrigued in your career, and often just am so inspired by the things you do. And there's a reason why you've gotten to the level that you've gotten to. Same with the other guests that I've had on. Like, you are busy and you work hard, and I understand that completely. So I just wanted to say that, because I think people need to hear that, you can't be taking things personal, and following up is so underrated. Like, following up with people and not leaving it as, oh, it couldn't work this time. It's like, all right, well, I tried. And like, nah, be persistent. Continue to try, and like it'll work out better for you than just like leaving it,
Yeah. And sometimes it's gonna be yes, sometimes it's gonna be no. Like, I remember there's a brand that just out of nowhere, literally without me even knowing the people at the brand, would send me all kinds of things. And then I remember there was one time that I asked them for something and they left me on red. But then weeks later, they sent me something different. So I think it's like to your point, not taking it personal. Sometimes there's so many different reasons as of why in that moment that ask couldn't be fulfilled.
That's a good
right?
point.
So I think, we just have to be understanding of each other. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to be either left on red or not get what you were asking for, but you just have to learn. Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no, sometimes it's later.
Yeah, you got to park your ego
Yeah.
to the side a little
Yeah.
bit too. And also like you got to, just like you said, marketing is in everything. So is sales. Like maybe what your first approach and like I guess the way you reached out to them didn't land correctly. Like fix the way you're trying to talk to somebody, or like add a new value proposition. Be like, maybe they didn't see any benefit in what you were offering or what you wanted. So like switch it up a little bit. Like these are all lessons that I feel like apply to a lot of things.
Or even timing, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
If you're someone that's involved in this sort of world and you see actively that I'm at this particular event, and in that moment you decide to DM me and ask me for something, then I'm already like, this person is not self-aware.
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I posted a flyer, which I typically do 2, 3, 4 times, especially when it's something that we are doing, and midway through the craziness, even though you could easily go look for the information, you're still asking me something. I'm human and I get it because I'm guilty of it too sometimes, but I'm automatically like, yo, really?
Yeah. Like the information is there if you just
Google it.
Yeah, literally Google it, or just a quick search will give you that information.
Yeah.
That's my favorite Slack to send sometimes when somebody asks me like a question I'm like, oh, like Google said this. And it's like, oh, okay.
ChatGPT, man. Like when I said no excuses, now there is really absolutely no excuse at all whatsoever for you not to know the answer about anything in this life.
Yes, there really isn't. There's a genius in your phone,
Literally.
in your hand at every moment.
Literally.
Do you use AI? Are you an AI user? Yeah.
Mainly because I'm not diagnosed by any means like ADHD, but I do have ADHD tendencies in the way that my brain processes or not processes ideas. So a lot of the times like I'll have a great concept or idea and I just don't know how to even put it on paper or even say it out loud eloquently. My team, again, I'm going to keep, going back to them, but they know me so well that they know what I'm trying to say, but sometimes it's hard for me to explain things, believe it or not. So I've leaned on ChatGPT to help me organize my thoughts.
So you split your ideas to it and then give it guidance on what you...
Yes, because a lot of the times too, when you're someone that is so busy all the time and you're expected to constantly be high performing and high functioning, I will literally not hit go on a project because I get so caught up in the formatting of it.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that is where like I've really leaned into the technology to help me be more efficient with my time. The meat and bones are there, but if it's going to take me 45 minutes to pick the right sort of bullet, because now I'm like, should I do the little check versus the circle? Because I'm also very detail oriented. I've realized how many probably years of my life at this point I've spent formatting some shit that I probably should have just let go.
The perfectionist side of you.
The perfectionist. So that is where I lean into the technology.
I get it. That makes sense to take over the meticulous things, because you're not the director of marketing for the way you format. It's your
my team knows. Do not ask me to put no PowerPoint together, man. I will not. I can't do it. I'll give you all the information, but please, for the love of God, don't put me in charge of it.
Yeah, there's some people that are good at making pretty crazy decks.
By all means. And if that's what you're good at and you don't like to come up with the content, I will do the content. You just put it together.
Yeah.
So that is where, again, I am not trying to be good at everything. I don't wish that for myself.
Yes.
Right? There's some things that I want to be really good at. Some things I have no desire to be good at.
Yeah. And that's a fair point. You don't have to be good at everything either. And you're being self-aware by just noticing that. Yeah. Because what did they say? A man or woman of many talents is a master of none, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm good at a shit ton of things, but there's some stuff that I'm like, that's just not where my heart is. I don't wish to know PowerPoint better at all.
It's fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. Like with editing, even this show, the part I enjoy the most is having conversations like this, but I don't like editing. I don't wish to be an editor. You know what I mean? I'll let the grades be great and they could do that.
look, now that I'm trying to go into my creative bag, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And do a little bit of like I guess like content creator, influencer work, can't I it's so hard for me.
Really?
So hard for me, believe it or not. Because again, I don't think people realize how long it takes to edit and get the right content and do the voiceover and the scrolling. It's just a lot.
I could imagine for you, especially because with being a perfectionist, even the way you format, your mind's probably going crazy with these video edits and trying to make sure they're all perfect.
And then it's a 15-second reel. It's like, come on. But I mean, again, I'm self-aware, but that is something that I'm actually interested in becoming better at.
Yeah.
So I will sit there with my phone and try to edit and all the things. And I'm getting better by repetition. But yeah, there's some stuff that someone else can be good at it. Y'all can have it. That's
agree.
just not me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
That's cool that you're starting to do that though, because I feel like you have a very unique and interesting life that a lot of people would probably want to tune into, you know, because not everybody gets to experience the things you get to experience.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people would kill to have your position too, which you seem to realize. One other thing I wanted to cover was just your like philosophy and your own personal outlook on life. Like, what's one philosophy that you live by, whether it's through work or just how you move?
I'm gonna go back to my family. Just every scenario, situation, good, bad, successful, failure, I always just try to keep that in mind. You know, like what matters to me, the togetherness, the love, the experiences, all of that. I just, it sounds like really pee, but like that's really it. You know, when I start to get a little bit too caught up in this world, right? Which it's easy to do. Again, I'm human. So I'll start like feeling myself a little too much, or like my demeanor starts to change a bit because I'm like a little bit too, what do the kids say now? Like I'm overstimulated.
Oh yeah.
I have to come back to, I have to go see my mom. I have to go spend time with my parents. Because that's who I am.
Yeah.
Right. So like going back to the core, that is what just makes me as a whole.
Very interesting. Because you could lose yourself, right?
Oh, so quick, man. That's why I'm just more understanding of people that go through these really hard things while being in the spaces. And again, it's just like being more like understanding and compassionate, because it's really easy. It's super easy, especially when you don't have people that are like, please stop.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, don't post that. Why did you say that? You know, like just chill a bit. And it's like, oh shit, okay. All right. You're right.
So you have people like that in your life?
All the time.
Okay, good. It's
All
important.
the time. They'll check me so quickly. And you need those kind of people around you.
You do. There's examples, I won't say any names, of like celebrities who don't have those type of people, who are just like quote unquote yes men or yes women. And you can tell like they wild out, and there's a reason why they do, and nobody checks them. So yeah, it's important. What about for underrepresented groups? Like I know that's important for you to put on for them. So how is that expressed through your work? Like, do you always try to tie that into the way you approach campaigns, or just through your own personal work?
Yeah, I mean, that's been a really tough space for me to move in, especially with what we're going through now. You know, and I'll speak for my community, you know, the Latin community, with what's going on with like the ICE raids and everything that we're experiencing. It's hard for me to even talk about it sometimes, you know, like I get so sad and like emotional. And like not too long ago, I in fact had to have a call with like our big leaders at the company around, you know, what is going on, and the acknowledgement or like lack thereof. And, you know, when they say that sometimes you really do have to speak your truth, even when your voice shakes. So when I tell you that when it was my moment to speak up about how I not only felt, you know, on behalf of my community, but me as someone that migrated here and whose, you know, journey was so easy and compared to a lot of people that are trying to go through the right process, which again, I could sit here for 20 hours and talk about it. But it's hard, right? To be like vocal and acknowledging of what's happening, and also think like, okay, but I also have to perform on behalf of this company.
Yeah.
So it's just been really hard, lately to talk about like certain, topics. But like even right now, like
I was gonna ask your shirt. It's fire.
Yeah, it's a collab shirt that they made to collect, profits from the production. I'm sorry, and the sale of the shirt.
They tried to bury us, right? Is what it says. That's
yeah.
fire. And in Mexican, the colors
Yeah.
with across the logo. I love that one.
Yeah.
Rhinestones.
So I even forgot what the original question was. See, this is how emotional I get about these topics.
Yeah, I could imagine that, like, the emotions running through you when you're trying to express that to leadership, right? Yeah. It was. I mean, you were getting to it. It's basically how you show up for underrepresented groups through your work or personal life, and it sounds like you're standing for them.
Right. So that's exactly where we're going. So, given the privileged position that I'm in, right, to be able to even have those conversations with such leaders, that alone, that is something that, as afraid as I was to speak up, I just had to.
Yeah, you did. Because
I just had to.
Who else was going to? Right?
Who else was going to? And there was plenty of other people in the room that were even more courageous than me to really speak their truths. I felt like I still had a little bit of like a filter in me in the things that I said. But again, like I had to stay true who like I was, right?
Yeah.
I'm also not someone that is like very like just I'm never going to be like super aggressive in my tone too. So I had to acknowledge that as emotional as I was feeling, I still had to be me. And I was still very like calm and, while still being like very passionate about what I was saying. But in that moment, that is just what felt right. And, I've been very vocal about what I support and don't support. And, the amount of like people that have either like unfollowed me or muted me, or the DMs that I've received from people in the industry. Cause again, we all have different views and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But, I won't compromise on what it's, right or wrong when it comes to humanity and people.
And that's a core principle that's not to be played with either.
This
it's
is
not small.
not coffee or matcha or Pepsi or Coke. These are human rights. And, I was never hesitant, not one time, to post what was going on, to bring awareness, and see my voice shaking right now. But and I'll continue to do that because I won't and can't stay quiet.
That's amazing to hear, because I love what you said. I didn't think about that aspect too, just being in like the position that you are right now at like an executive level. Like there's not many people of, I guess, the Latino or Latina culture that are at that level, unfortunately. So knowing that, having that self-awareness, you like feeling the need to say something, it says a lot. Like I didn't really take that into consideration,
Yeah. And I mean, it is scary to speak up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to get flagged? Am I going to get a call from corporate? Am I going to get a call from HR, from legal? Are people that I work with going to be upset over what I believe in and not believe in? But I am okay with what I believe in, and I know to the core that what I am standing for is what's right for me. And I don't know, you just gotta stand on business. Like
you do.
Yeah,
you gotta stand 10 toes down.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You
yeah.
do.
And it seems like just throughout this whole conversation, you carry everything with you, your whole life experiences, your upbringing, your roots.
Yeah.
And you can see that. And I think it's the question before, it's just like your differences can be viewed as like almost a weakness, but I feel like for you, they're like your weapon, it's your secret power. And it's very apparent that that's the case for you right now,
Yeah, and I think it took just perspective on my end, because what you just said, people have always wanted to use that against me and as a weakness, and I've learned to use it as my superpower and not the other way around.
Yeah, and it is.
Yeah.
Paulina, I appreciate it so much. I have so many other questions in here that I'm not going to be able to get to, but it's completely okay, because I feel like we covered so much, and like I said, you dropped so many gems, so much value. And just wanted to give the floor to you. Do you have any like last words or anything you want to leave the audience with?
Not really. I just want to thank you for the opportunity, for the follow-up, for the platform. I love yapping, and especially when, even if it's just one message that I get out of this conversation from somebody saying that they were like inspired or, curious about a particular aspect of what I spoke about, that's what just really matters at the end of the day. So thank you.
I love to hear it. Yeah, you're very impressive, and I'm really glad I did this because I got to know you so much better, and I'm so much more impressed of how you got to where you're at. It's amazing to see, and I can tell that people are gonna get a lot from it. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Well, from Creative Ambiance, this is Levi and Paulina Lopez checking out, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Bye.